What's up, everybody? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You know what movie that's from? My cousin Vinny. We had a good week last week. Last week was a good week. The Moicano versus St. Denis card was a really, really good card. I wouldn't say a really good card. From a picking perspective, we're completely transparent. From a picking perspective, we didn't do all that great. Picking the sides of the fights. We had some good spots. We had some spots where but there was a card where a lot of these fights could have went either way. From a betting perspective, we did very well. We did not very well, but we did plus 1.77 units, which a lot of people didn't make a dime on this card. I saw people go down like 20 units. So we went up in the bonus, was obviously as good, so we're keeping the streak rolling. Also in football on Sunday, we had a really good week. We did plus 14.8 units as a collective, which means our team together, 14.8 units, we went up. Mike Marangelli's been leading the charge in NFL. He's been on a hot streak. He's had like multiple 7-unit weeks. Who else? We got Siggs, who went in the bonus. We had Tams, who had a really good week. D-Rock has been slaying his contrarian corner with DFS. We also have a new injection right now. We have somebody that we brought on, our newest member, which is J-Mac. If you want to follow him on Twitter, I think it's Breakfast Files. He is a very sharp DFS player, and this is a guy who has won, over $750,000 in DFS play across NFL and UFC. And the reason why I liked his approach and I brought him on is not only because he's very sharp, but it's the way he does things. We all. The one thing about our community, if you join our community, is we're kind of like the working man's company. We don't believe in, or we're not impressed by people who come out and run 150 lineups and then take a screenshot and post it. That doesn't impress me. It doesn't impress a lot of the guys that are in our community. What impresses me is if you could take down a tournament with 1 entry or 3 entries, those minimal entries. That shows me that you're hand building these things. You're kind of figuring out yourself. You're doing it. You're doing your due diligence. That to me is impressive. When you're running 150 lineups, there's nothing impressive to me about that. Not only that, but a lot of people don't have the access to that kind of funds. The people that do that usually have people funding them. They got financial backers or whatever the case may be, or they just have the money to do that. A lot of the working people just don't have, especially in today's economy, they don't have the access to do that. You know what I mean? So I've always liked and I was always impressed by people who had that kind of approach, that single entry mentality. I do a 10-fight approach where I give you my hedge weights with a 10-fight, hedge. That's like the maximum that I will go is 10 lineups, and I hand build all of them. I don't look down on optimizers or anything like that. I just don't think it requires a lot of skill. I think it requires a lot more luck than skill. So what I liked about J-Mac's approach and what I liked about D-Rock's approach, and these guys do it that way. And what J-Mac did is he brought an article in starting this week that he goes through every single game for the NFL with early looks. It's actually on the site right now at themadlabmma.com, and he uses his approach, his single entry and like 3 entry max approach to show you guys how he attacks it with that kind of mentality. So it's a really great. I read it because I had to actually proofread it and you do some edits to it and then post it. So I had first look at it, but it's a great article. So between the MMA content that we're putting out, there's so many things on that site that people don't even realize it's there. Like we have Air Force One. He does every metric for every single fighter. It's called Fighter Metrics. And it's literally everything from reach to height to, you name it. It's any kind of metric you want for every fighter on the card is on there. And a lot of people don't even know that's on the site. They kind of overlook it. So we have so many different tools on that site, and everything now that we're adding into it is absolutely free. It's with your membership. We charge you for the MMA product. We're giving you NFL. We're giving you the Roster Bully tool that had an awesome week, our best week actually in week 4 of the Roster Bully tool. You're getting D-Rock's Contrarian Corner. You're getting J-Mac's first look article. You're getting all the team's wagers. You're getting everything that we inject now is a part of your membership. We're not the type of people to sit there and do a la carte and say, you know what, we're putting this in, so we got to charge you an extra $5 for this or an extra $10 for this. We're giving you everything. Like, we're giving you everything you possibly need. You're not a social security number with us. You know what I mean? You're a part of a community. You're a part of a family. So we definitely urge you to come check us out, especially this week with this card coming up that we're going to talk about right now. It's a very, very good product. It's a healthy product, and especially in times of today where sometimes you need an escape. You don't want to go into some of these discords and people are arguing, they're calling each other's names, they're going back and forth. You come into our Discord and it's like a really zero strike policy. Like, you come in and you're either respectful or you're out. So everybody in our community have each other's phone numbers, they talk off the air, they go out together, they go to fights together. You'll really be a part of something special. So I definitely urge you guys to at least come check us out, themadlabmma.com. So like I said, last week we had a really good week from the wagering end, from the DFS end, from the NFL end. This week we're going to roll over to this card, and you know what? It's really, really interesting, this card, because the best way I can say is when we talk about UFC cards, right? We talk about them being sometimes super top heavy. And a lot of the fans will get pissed off. They'll say, look, man, like, why am I paying $90 for four good fights or for 3 good fights? And you got to sympathize with that, a little bit. This is a card where it's not top heavy, but it's got a perfect balance of power. All the way through, the card is good. So I don't mind spending the $90, the $100 on this card, because even though I'm not spending it, because I'm going to tell you actually where we're going for this card, but I'm going to be spending more, actually. But, it's got a perfect balance of power. You're not watching the prelims, like getting through the prelims, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, now I got to pay the $90 to actually watch the main card. And the main card's really not that good except for the main and the co-main, so you kind of feel ripped off. You're getting an awesome prelim card, an early prelim card, that you don't mind after that, saying, you know what, they gave this to us. I don't mind spending $90 on this card because it's actually really good. It's got a perfect balance of power. Like, this is a really good card. Like, what lacks in the, like, I understand the main event isn't this, oh my God, I can't wait for the main event. I get it. But they make up for it down the entire card. It's a really, really solid card. You don't hear from that from me much. So we're going to break down a couple of these fights. We're going to get to Mackenzie's pick of the week as well. And then we're going to roll on out of here. Actually, before we get into this card that we're watching this weekend, we are all going to the Cosm, which is a place in LA, and it's almost like a mini Sphere. And you sit down, you get a table, you eat dinner, and you watch the fights like 360 degrees, which is actually really cool. It's an experience I definitely want to check out. I couldn't make it to the Sphere. This is the next best thing, and it's apparently brand new. It's like an amazing experience. So I'm really looking forward to going with a bunch of good people and watching the fights. But all right, so main event. Alex Pereira and Poatan and Khalil Rountree. When you look at this fight right out of the gate, what are you saying? You're saying, well, Alex Pereira is going to win this fight. Or you get a lot of people that now are saying that Rountree is going to win. And, a lot of people are saying this. Why? Because they're listening to fighters. Like, some of these fighters are coming out. Like, I know Kamaru Usman came out and said he's knocking out Poatan and stuff like that. Like, you got to stop listening to those guys. Because I remember they do have things invested. It's almost like if Anthony was fighting, and he was fighting a guy that I kind of know. Listen, he's up against it. I'm going to say Anthony's going to win. I'm going to say he's going to win. He's my best friend. I'm obviously going to say he's going to win. I'm going to have his back. I'm not going to come out and say Anthony's going to lose. So. You got to look at that. Then from the other end of it, you got to look at I call them the trail hoppers. And there are people that have these free YouTube pages, and they have these Twitter accounts, and they're giving free picks out, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And they're just kind of riding with the pack. And they're saying, well, if Rountree, clips them or connects on them, it's over. It's over. It's over. And there is something to be said that's true about that. But the fact of the matter is nobody's talking about this. And I talked about this in the article in depth. And I'll break it down a little lighter. Nobody's talking about this. You have a guy in Rountree that when he first came into the UFC, he had a lot of holes in his game. I mean, his striking wasn't even that good. He just had a lot of power. He was an A-side athlete. And he had horrendous takedown defense and terrible wrestling. That's kind of what he was. He since then, in the last couple of years, he's taken his striking a lot more seriously. He started really studying the art of Muay Thai and stuff like that, and it's worked for him. I mean, look at his track record now. It's obviously worked for him. But if you really look at the time that he's put in, he's not like wound together perfectly technical for Muay Thai. He's got kind of an odd style that he adds into it. And maybe that's why it's working for him, because it's kind of an odd approach to Muay Thai. But in the couple years that he's been really studying this hard, he has made leaps and bounds. But those leaps and bounds cannot compare to a guy who's been doing this his entire life. This guy is a two-time Glory kickboxing champion. He is in the Hall of Fame for Glory. He's been beating everybody in the UFC. Nobody has been able to stand this guy outside of Izzy, because Izzy also is a master technician, despite what you want to think about him. What makes you think, and not to mention, he's not a guy who's going to take you down. He's not a guy who's going to try to submit you. He's not a guy who even has that skill set. He's going to have to come in and catch him, because he's not going to have the bag of tricks of Poatan. Poatan's got years and years and years and years of tricks in his pocket. He's seen every kind of style. He's tasted every kind of a power, every approach, every trap. This is second nature to him. You're giving him a guy that's not, you're telling him, I'm giving you a guy that's not going to take you down. He's going to try and stand with you. How many guys do you really believe have that chance to do that with Poatan? Not many. I get it, he's getting older. I get it that eventually his time's going to come where he's going to lose. I get it that, he possibly could be taking this fight a little bit lightly. I get all that. And then you get a guy in Khalil Rountree who is hungry. He's getting a shot that he probably shouldn't have right now. And he's very hungry. There's something to be said about that. But for you guys to sit there, these people to sit there and actually believe or pick that Rountree is going to win this fight, I think it's very unethical and uneducated. I just do. I don't think he's ever seen anything like Poatan in there. I think Poatan's seen numerous versions of him. I mean, he just fought a guy in Yeri who everybody thought from Kingdom Come that Yeri was going to beat him, because they were uneducated. They didn't understand, Yeri's like this mythical creature, and he comes out and he's very awkward and unorthodox, but he's very unpolished. He's not disciplined, and he's chaotic. And I tried to scream at people like, guys, you're crazy if you guys think that Yeri's going to win this fight. And he destroyed him. So this is the same thing what I'm trying to tell you here. Like, does Rountree have a window to win the fight? Yeah, he's got a window to win the fight. If he clears space and he uncorks his shot, that Poatan is just in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But he's not going to outwork him. He's not going to submit him. He's not going to take him down and grapple with him. He's going to have to stand on the feet for 25 minutes with him. And that's just not going to happen in a technical stand-up match. I just think Alex Pereira is going to end up finishing him. Now, how does he finish him? Obviously, we're all going to say by knockout, and that's what I'm going to call. I'm going to say Alex Poatan Pereira by knockout. But there is something to be said about this. When you're talking about a guy like Khalil Rountree, who's got zero takedown defense, who's got horrendous wrestling. I wouldn't say zero takedown defense, but he's got horrendous wrestling. When he's on his back, he's a fish out of water. And you got a guy in Alex Pereira who's been training with Glover for so long. He's been working a lot with Kayla Harrison. Interesting that Kayla Harrison came onto her interview and she said, look, we may or may not have a bet that I'm going to knock my opponent out and he's going to submit his opponent. If that stands to be true and Alex Pereira decides to show another wrinkle in his game, if you're going to do that, you're going to do that against a guy like Rountree, who really doesn't have the defense on the ground. You're going to at least test yourself. If I'm going to test myself on the ground here, forget about the striking. Let me see how I fare in live action now with my grappling. If you're going to do it with somebody like that, you're going to do it with somebody like Rountree. So I'm not calling it, but I'm saying it's something that you might be able to keep your eye on if you're up in units and you want to throw $10 or $20 on it. Alex Pereira by submission is like plus 18, plus 1,600. It's something like that. So if their little wager stands to be true and he actually does try to take Khalil Rountree down and maybe try to impress Glover with a sub, you never know. But officially, I'm going to go Alex Pereira by knockout. I think the leg kicks are just going to add up in its totality. He's going to start crippling Rountree, and he's going to clip him with a shot. Next fight, Pennington and Juliana Pena. There's a little bit of heat with these girls, and I get it. But this is another thing that people aren't talking about. Dana White is really good friends with Raquel Pennington. I'm talking really good friends, not like friendly. They're very, very good friends. Not on the level of Ronda Rousey friends, but close, very close. Not in that way. I mean, she's a lesbian. Obviously, she's dating Tisha. She's married to Tisha Pennington. But Very good friends. They've been friends for a long time. So when you look at her path, right? If you look at Raquel Pennington's path, this is a girl who doesn't talk a lot. She doesn't do a lot of media obligations. She doesn't like being in the spotlight. She just likes to be left alone. And then when she comes to work, she comes and she works. You know, so when you have a friend like that who is a grinding fighter, a good fighter, she's fought everybody. She's beaten a lot of the good girls. She's lost to some of the good girls. But she's always like right there. When Juliana Pena backed out of this fight, this was the first fight for the belt, when Juliana Pena got hurt and Raquel Pennington had to fill in. This was Dana White's way of saying, like, I can get one of my friends now. This is a girl who's been with me for so long. She has worked her way to the top. She's always kind of come up short. But this is like almost like a gift to her. Say, listen, go, not a gift, but I'm giving you the opportunity now to go in there and win the belt. I can't give it to you, friend. I can't give you the belt. You got to go win the belt. But I'm going to give you the opportunity now to go in there and win the belt. She goes in and she gets the vacant strap, okay? Dana White accomplished. Job well done. His friend gets the strap. All is good in the world. Now Juliana Pena comes back, and Dana White's saying, all right, well, now this is the lesser of two evils. What do I do here? I got my friend who I did my job. I gave her an opportunity to win the belt. She won the belt, so that's done. But at the end of the day, she's really not good for the marketing machine of the UFC. So, okay, if Juliana Pena wins, I got nothing to feel bad about anyway, because she got the belt. She's etched in the history of the UFC forever as a UFC champion. But now I got to get back to my business. I got to get back to the marketing machine of what's going to be good for business. And Juliana Pena is good for business because she has that heel attached to her. She can be the heel. She's a very pretty girl. She's a dog in there, and she can also be a heel. Like, you either love Juliana Pena or you don't. Like, there's no. I personally don't. I shouldn't say this because I'm good friends with her trainer. And I shouldn't say I don't like her. I don't like her attitude in a lot of spots. I do like her as a fighter. I think she's a very good fighter. I hope he doesn't listen to this. But I do. I don't agree with a lot of things that she says. You know, I think she could be a little cringe at times. But as a fighter, I think she's a really good fighter. But I think she's better for the business, especially if Kayla Harrison wins and you're going to have a matchup now. What would be better for the marketing machine? The build up to Kayla Harrison and Pennington, who's really not going to talk much. She's going to go back with her Tisha Torres and with the baby and the baby and the baby. Or is it going to be Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison where they're going to talk nonstop trash about each other? They're already talking trash about each other. So I think this is like a win-win for Dana White. His friend got the belt. If she relinquishes it, it's fine. She's etched in for history. Now I get back to business. So it's that kind of a fight. Who do I think wins this fight? It's really a coin flip for me, because I think if it ends up in the clinch and it stays on the feet, I think I got to give it to Pennington. I think she's just a little bit more rough around the edges when it comes to the clinch work. She works behind an amazing jab. She's got one of the better jabs in female MMA. Understands range management really well. She is super durable as well. She's got good wrestling. She's got good jiu-jitsu. She's very well-rounded. She's not an A-plus athlete. That's the thing with her. She's not like this A-plus athlete where she's going to get to corners with her athleticism. She's got to kind of grind her way and dig her way with a shovel to get to spots that she wants to get at. Now, if Juliana Pena can lock up and take advantage of those clinch positions and not stand with her, but inside trip her, find ways to get her to the ground, I think that's where her top control can really start, and her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can start taking over a little bit, because I do think Pena's Jiu-Jitsu is better. I do think her top control is better. I don't think that Pennington is very good off her back. And I think that's where, in a close fight, in a dirty fight, that's where Pena can win. With minute left in a round, close round, Pena gets an inside trip, takes it down, gets some top control, starts fishing submissions, maybe doesn't get it, but it goes into the next round, advantage Pena. So I think it's that kind of a fight. I don't think that Pena should be this much of a dog. Last I looked, she was like a plus 145. I got this fight kind of like a coin flip. So I do see value on the Pena side. But I wouldn't be shocked in any aspect on who wins. But who's better for the marketing machine? Who's better for the UFC, division going forward? It's Juliana Pena. I mean, it's clear cut. And I love Rocky Pennington. I think she's great for the sport. I love the way she got to where she is without the talking. It's with all work ethic. But as far as what do the people want to see more? They want to see more of that trash talk. They want to see the Kayla Harrisons and the Juliana Penas going at it. So I'm going to pick Julian and Pena. I'm going to take the underdog in this spot by a very slim margin. Not very confident in that pick. Next one, Jose Aldo and Mario Bautista. This is a fight where obviously you guys know I'm always all over Jose Aldo. I don't know how people used to pick against him so many times. This is one of the legends. One of the you could say maybe one of the top 3 of all time, top 2, maybe the best pound for pound of all time. The problem I have with Jose Aldo now, and it's not so much of a problem, it's kind of a shift in power, is what was he known for? And a lot of people talk about this. They're like, well, why isn't he abandoning his leg kicks? Why doesn't he go after leg kicks anymore? Because he's had the best leg kicks in the game for a long time, like a very, very long time. It's not that I really believe this now. I really believe this now because he's not a stupid guy. You got to know what you're really good at, right? And I really, really believe that the reason why he's kind of abandoned them a little bit is from the damage to him. Like, this is a guy who's fought for years and years and years and leaned on his leg kicks. And as much as you're hurting the opponent, these are weaponizing your opponent's legs, you're also taking brute force and damage to your own legs. There's only so much that your legs can take. And I think he started to realize that. I think he started to realize, like, if I continue on this path of just a voluminous, hard, thunderous leg kicks, where if I throw 10, 2 or 3 of them are going to be checked, that's damage on my end too. And I think he realized, like, if I'm going to have a little bit more longevity in this career, I got to back up off the leg kicks a little bit. So what did he do? He went to boxing. And what did boxing bring him? It brought him really a good understanding of body work. Like, his body work is insane. He knocked dudes out with liver shots. I mean, I love watching him now. Like, I like watching him more now than I did back then, just for the mere fact that I'm a sucker for body work. That's why I like Adrian Yanez. That's why I like this one kid that just fought on the Contender Series. Like, I'm a sucker for clean body work. If you have clean body work, you could build so much on that, because where you go to the body, where the head goes, when it goes down, the body follows. But when you're looking at this in a whole and you're looking at a guy, well, a lot of people do go in there and they do get a little starstruck fight now, though. They'll go in there. I'm across the cage from the King of Rio, big name, still has it, still has his speed, still has his power. It's like kind of the theater of the unknown when you do fight Aldo. You don't know which Aldo you're going to get. Bautista's a guy who just, to me, seems very stoic, very. Just, I don't care, man. I'm going in there and I'm going to fight. He's got volume himself. He's got good leg kicks himself. He's long. He's rangy. He's powerful. He's not going to back down from a firefight with Aldo. It could be the detriment and it could work in his favor. I personally think in this fight, and I'd never pick against Jose Aldo, ever. I mean, if you go back in my history, very, very rarely, even at his age now, I wasn't picking against him. I was always saying, you give me Jose Aldo at dog money, I'm taking him. This is just one of those spots where I think, because I'm really high on Bautista too, this is just one of those spots I think Bautista just edges him. I think Jose Aldo's very live in this spot. I do. But I just think this is a spot where you're getting a guy who's not going to be starstruck. You're getting a guy who's younger, who's fresher, who throws a lot of volume, who also throws really good leg kicks, and he's going to utilize them. And he's not going to be afraid of Aldo's power or his technical ability, because he's pretty technical, very technical himself. So like I said, it could be a detriment and it could be a blessing or a curse for him. It all depends. Like, when you fight Jose Aldo, your blueprint is either a blessing or a curse. So I like Bautista here by like slim margins. Like, I probably would not go near this fight. If you're a Bautista backer, I probably would not go near this fight. I just completely stay clear of it. If you're a Jose Aldo backer and you think like there's value on him, then I get it. I understand why you would want to take a plug on him. Maybe find some kind of exotic bet or something, or probably be better off hitting the props. But for me, I'm just going to go with Bautista. I'm going to go Bautista by probably like 29-28 decision. Next fight. Oh, before we get to this fight, we're going to jump to Mackenzie's lock of the week. Last week, Mackenzie and we both were on the same fight. We had, who the hell do we have? Matt Frivola, and he got fucking starched. Yeah, so your streak is over. But she's going to bounce back now. Here we go.
With the urge to get a bad taste out of her mouth from her last loss that the judges took from her, Tisha Pennington looks to leave no doubt against former champion Carla Esparza. While Esparza was enjoying motherhood for the last 2 years, she decided to come back for one final fight before she calls it quits altogether. Not quite the mind frame you're looking to endorse when you're trying to establish a winner. While Esparza's success always leaned on her wrestling to achieve her victories, Tisha is a plus athlete here with very good takedown defense. I'm expecting Tisha to keep this standing and use her athletic ability to coast to victory here. Give me Tisha Pennington at minus 165.
All right, so then we got the next fight. Now we got Mackenzie's lock of the week. She'll get back on track. She's now 4-1. We're going to get her 5-1 because she's going to be at the Cos. I'm rooting her fighter on. All right, so we got Roma Dolidze and Kevin Holland. This is a fight that was kind of clear-cut to me in a sense, and I'm going to tell you why. When the thing when I say clear-cut is I navigated to who I think is going to win the fight. But as far as confidence, anytime you're navigating towards Kevin Holland, you got to be cautious. You got to put a caution tape around him because this is a guy who sometimes just clowns around too much. This is a guy who, if you take him to the ground, you put him on his back, instead of worrying about getting to his feet, what is he doing? He's talking to the announcers. He's talking to the fighter that's on top of him. He's making jokes. He's trying to make the crowd. That's not winning you fights, bro. That's not winning you fights. Like, the judges aren't looking at that and going, "Oh my God, you hear that joke? Give him a point." No, they're not. They're not doing that. You need activity, and that was one of the biggest things with Holland. This guy is very talented on the feet. He's a good athlete. He's long, rangy. He'll pick and prod at you and hit you with power, gets you at the end of his punches and kicks. But when it comes to like certain elements of his game where he's put into a situation where he's in the negative, he tends to try to get out of it by joking around and being funny, and that's not winning you fights. There was a multitude of fights that this guy could have won that he didn't if he literally just locked in and said, "I got to get out of this situation," instead of joking around. Talking to Daniel Cormier, talking to Paul Felder, talking to this. It's crazy. So here he is now in another situation where he's fighting a guy, Roma Dolidze, who's going to try to take him down and try to grapple him. The problem I got with Roma Dolidze, this is another guy. He's not an A-plus athlete. He's not fast. He doesn't have good right. He's got very good grappling, but he's got a lot of power chokes and stuff like that, good leg series. But he's not he's a guy that kind of telegraphs everything he does. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So if Holland really did work, and it has gotten better, his takedown defense has gotten better. If he worked on it even a little more, he should be fine with Dolidze. Dolidze does tend to gas out. His hands are slow. Holland should be able to piece him apart if this is for 15 minutes. It's in altitude in Salt Lake City. That's another thing, guys. This card is in altitude, so you got to take all that into account here. Like, things do happen in altitude, so keep that in mind. The crazy things happen. All of a sudden, the guy comes out, he's 10-8 round somebody, and then in the second round, those lungs fill up with fire because of the altitude. They can't breathe anymore. The fight's done if the table flips. So you're going to see a couple fights like that this weekend. I'll tell you that right now. The altitude's going to play a factor to some of these fights. And this could be one of those fights where Dolidze is trying to get him down, clinching, can't get the takedown. Holland's defending well, keeps him on the feet, and then all of a sudden you see Dolidze with his mouthpiece out, huffing and puffing, hands down, and that's when Kevin Holland starts styling on him. So I'm going Kevin Holland by knockout, but it is not a super confident pick just for the mere fact that it is Kevin Holland, and we know what Kevin Holland does. All right, last fight we're going to break down. We're going to do Kayla Harrison and Caitlin Vieira. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that you guys should not be betting on this fight, Kayla Harrison, at that price. You shouldn't be betting on any fighter at that price. Although, I will tell you, I don't even think she's worth that price. I am very close to one of Kayla Harrison's judo coaches, who was an Olympic coach, Olympic judoka coach, and I was actually in a wedding with him for another one of our mutual. So, I've talked to them numerous times and about Kayla Harrison. Like I said, Chris Skelly and Tony Kamal, both guys judo coaches in the Olympics, both very good friends of mine, coached her, told me everything about her. I've been watching her since way before the PFL. And, the thing that I have to say about her, and he knows this, and I'm sure he'll listen to this and he's not going to care because I've said this to him numerous times, is that every time Kayla Harrison fights, when things are going her way, she looks fantastic. Like, it's like, who's going to beat this girl? Like, there's certain fights where, like, can Amanda Nunes even beat her? Like, it's crazy. But the minute things start going awry with her a little bit, like, they start going awry. Like, they start going a little haywire. You saw that with the Pacheco fight. After she got out of the first, second round, it was like, oh, man, it looks like she's going to lose this fight. And she did. And there were other situations in fights where, like, she had trouble. She started saying, well, my judo's not working, or she couldn't get the submission. And even though she was beating these girls that this was happening to, it wasn't as the time went on, the fight was less and less and less dominant. So, when I look at Caitlin Vieira, and first of all, when I look at this price, I'm like, this is insane. Because I think Caitlin Vieira is getting very, very disrespected here. I really, really do. This is a girl who's very tough. She's also got a black belt in judo. Not a lot of people know that, but it's not on Kayla Harrison's level. I understand that all black belts are not created equal, but she does have a black belt in judo, which means that at least she can tell the telltale signs when you're in the clinch, when she's positioning a certain way, when she's pivoting her feet a certain way. She can kind of recognize, all right, she's going for this throw or she's going for that throw. Not what is she trying to set me up for. So she's kind of privy of what's going on. Maybe can't activate it and activate her hips like Harrison, but she kind of knows the telltale signs when she's doing a certain grab, how she's leaning her body, what she, where her foot placement is, what she's looking to uncork on her, which can give her a little bit of a leeway. She's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and she's also tough as hell on the feet. So I honestly think she's getting disrespected here. I'm picking Kayla Harrison to win this fight, but I do not think that this is going to be a rollover like you guys think. A lot of people are picking Kayla Harrison in the first round. I do not think. I would not be shocked if this thing goes into the third round, and in the third round, Caitlin Vieira is maybe giving her some problems. You know what I mean? I have a lot of respect for Caitlin Vieira. I do think that she's has a pretty decent mountain to climb in this fight. But it would not shock me if Kayla Harrison goes out there, puts on a clinic in the first round, and then all of a sudden that Salt Lake City air starts, and she's huffing and puffing, and Caitlin Vieira is just moving forward like the zombie that she is. So be very, very cautious with that fight. I wouldn't go near that fight from a Kayla Harrison perspective, unless you're looking at some props. I wouldn't even tie it into a parlay. I think it's ridiculous to even tie her to a parlay. As far as the DraftKings perspective, yeah, she's expensive. You're going to pay for her. There is upside for a finish, but I would not completely sleep on a punt play or two on Caitlin Vieira. To me, in a tournament, it might be worth it. I'm not saying load up your roster with it, but if you want to throw in one or two lineups, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's a fight. A fight is a fight is a fight, and that's why you fight the fight. So that's it, guys. Let's have a good weekend. If you guys want all my content, all the team's content, go to the MadLabMMA.com. We have you covered over there. We have a lot of new stuff that we injected, and we're yours for the weekend. So come down, check us out, and I'll see you next week.